I'm not, there we go. All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is our April 6th voting session. I think we're going to probably be doing a lot of sort of talking through stuff on some of these things. Erica, did you want to start with this recede concur?
I personally would love if we started with that. Calendar should be fairly quick.
Then if you would love it, I would love it. What would you like to tell me?
Well, the first bill, do you want to go in bill order?
Yes, please.
Okay. First one is House Bill 7.
House Bill 7 is the
Can you put your mic over? Yeah.
House Bill 7 is the venison donation income tax credit grant program. The House has declined to accept the Senate's amendments. Do you want to go to conference on it, or do you want to recede and take the House position?
What do we want to do? Anybody? Take the House? Yes? Remind us again. What exactly is the House position?
The House did not address the antlers.
Oh, no. I don't know how we could go to the floor without that.
The House did not increase the credit per deer or the cap per individual. The Senate bill increased it from $50 to $75 per deer, and per individual $200 to $600 each year. The House did make the changes with regard to Montgomery County to allow them to include expenses to hunt deer in Montgomery County and transport deer in Montgomery County. The House allows the credit to expire in 2023 in favor of a venison donation grant program within the Department of Natural Resources. The Senate bill would have extended the credit for another 5 years. Just for another year. It was amended during the voting session to 2024. And then this Senate bill also required DNR to do a report on chronic wasting disease.
That was in their bill or not in their bill?
Not in their bill.
Senator Eckert?
I think we should go ahead and move with the House version. Now, we added the wasting disease, correct?
We did.
And maybe let's see if we can get that back in there.
I think if we recede, we don't have it, it's done. Is that accurate? If we recede, it's done for the year. Come back next year. It's the beauty of democracy.
All right, or we can just take the House bill because DNR is working on a grant program, and the issue is they don't want to incentivize the hunters. They want to pay the butchers, so that's all
Yeah,
going to
that
be
part
worked
sounds
out.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's
Senator Edwards, what do you think?
I think our bill's a heck of a lot better than our bill, but I don't want to extend this whole debate, so just take what the House did. We'll argue about it next year.
Easy over there.
I like it equal.
Yeah, we don't like to be discriminatory,
That's right.
but I think we will be on this one. Everybody agree to recede? The buck stops here. I can't believe he said that. All right, so that was unanimous?
With the note that we're keeping score.
Yeah. Okay. Next.
So Senate Bill 259 is the Garvey bond debt limit bill. If you'll recall, the bill was a departmental that came in to create sort of a revolving loan fund with the Garvey bonds. The Senate position was to designate what those bonds could be used for, and if you'll recall, there was 6 projects that were specifically listed. The House struck those 6 projects and inserted its own 3 projects that could be completed. And so the House would use the money for developing and constructing the Baltimore and Potomac Tunnel expansion and related projects, state of good repair needs for the Maryland Transit Administration, or system preservation projects for the State Highway Administration.
Senator McCray?
Senator McCray.
Mr. Chair, when I talked to my counterpart, the positioning still with the generic terms that he left us with, the system preservation still was inclusive of the projects that we still had in there.
So you want to
And it's
receive?
another term that's okay. State of good repair needs for Maryland Transit. So that was inclusive of like that was inclusive the system preservation projects, which was the stuff on 301 and the other things. And I think that they said that B&P was very important. So just trying to make sure that we kept it from a generic standpoint instead of just zeroing in on certain projects. That way it's still there.
So you're good with it?
I was good with it.
Senator Peters?
So I had a whole bunch of people coming up, a couple of the senators who had the projects there, who were concerned about it from Southern Maryland, Charles, St. Mary's, and I don't know, Senator McCray, didn't we put language in the budget for this too? I don't know, Matt, maybe you remember? I seem to remember in the budget we put some language in that was mirrored this.
We put the Southern Maryland language inside of the budget and reference to federal funding. Is that what you're talking about, or no, something different?
Yeah, I thought we listed some projects in there, like the same thing, but
We were very
Just one,
specific
I
in the
think.
budget language.
Just the one, right?
Just the one, but
Yeah,
it was,
$5 million to go along with the build money from the feds if we got it.
yep.
and we did the bill, right?
And we did the bill for 5 years.
But I thought we did some Southern Maryland, they're complaining about the roads there, do you think we could just hold it until we check? Is that okay, or?
I don't have a problem with it being
Okay.
held, but he did say that the stuff with Southern Maryland would be inclusive of number 3, the system preservation projects for State Highway Administration. That's where that would fit in at.
Okay.
And it's important to recognize that when the secretary sent over, your stuff was in there, so it's still a priority to the secretary when he sent down a list of things that
Yeah.
we kind of crafted in here.
Okay. I mean, the issue is that they got the Southern Maryland Rail,
Yep.
which we've already taken care of, but then they got the road, so,
Yep.
we got 1, 2, 3, 4 senators that came up and said, hey, if this rail thing doesn't fly, we still got a lot of problems in Waldorf and et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm just putting the issue forth, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, the funny thing about this bill, as I see it, is this is just one mechanism. It's not saying, it's not establishing a priority for
Yeah.
that particular, any of these particular projects that we laid out.
Yep.
It's just a mechanism that could have been used for those projects. There are other mechanisms in the budget that could be used for this project, and I think the idea was that it would just be
Bumping
ones
up.
that they thought it was a useful mechanism. So,
But they threw a project in there themselves,
right.
so, Anyway,
I'm willing to hold it if people want to, and I'm willing to move forward.
we'll just hold it for a day and then
That's
come
cool.
back? Okay.
That's fine.
Let's go
That's
back
fine.
to them. Thanks.
Absolutely. 529. And not the Ed Casemeyer 529.
Senate Bill 529 is the Senate bill regarding the Anne Arundel County hotel tax alterations. The House added the 3% to the Affordable Housing Trust in Annapolis. Same posture as what the Senate sent back. the Senate had just moved the bill too early, and it didn't get the 3% distribution added in. So I think the position here for you is to concur. This body's just passed an identical bill in the House version.
All right. All those in favor concur? Okay. Unanimous. 919.
919 is the Fairhill bill. The bill, as you'll recall, dealt with the Fairhill facility in Cecil County and the equestrian center up there. The bill, as it came in, as the House had moved it over, and as the Senate had moved it over, had some mandatory funding on the governor for the project there at Fairhill. The House struck all the mandatory funding provisions out of the bill. So now all the bill deals with are the rules regarding racing at Fairhill. So that, if you'll recall, there were various sort of minutia detail issues with how racing is conducted at Fairhill. You've got to have a minimum number of race days, so that it repealed the number of race days.
Does it talk about funding at all?
No, the House bill doesn't deal with funding at all now. It just deals with what the mandatory, or what the takeout is on the betting that goes on there, and then how much of that betting gets sent over to the fund that'll be used to do repairs there at the Fairhill Center. The bill's in essentially the same posture as the Senate passed it, just with none of the funding mandates. I can walk you through how the racing changes
That's all right.
if you want.
Unless somebody really wants to hear that. I mean, I think the end of the day is about the funding on this and whether or not we're taking advantage of this opportunity, this international opportunity or not. I'm a little surprised where we are if it doesn't talk about no funding.
The whole bill is now
My recollection is in one of the supplementals, I think there was 500,000. But that I don't think is enough to do the trick. I'd just as soon try to work this out with them if we can. Okay? All right.
Not concur.
Not concur. Does that mean we have to set a conference committee? Do you need that from me now? Who loves this? I know Senator Solling loves it. Okay. Yep. Senator Rosapep, Senator Solling, and I see a hand up over there, Senator Elfrith. $329. Yes, Senator Solling.
I'm just going to say I totally agree with you with the part with the 500,000 to support the 5-star Equinox event is what you're talking about. I just don't understand how they can just strip everything out of there like that and not just. I don't get that stuff.
Well, you got to put everything in context too. I mean, we have been working to minimize out-year costs, and we probably will have to knock a couple out years off, or at least early years. I think there's a lot of concern about 23, even though we are at this point very much fine in terms of fund balance and all the rest, but it still lingers out there. There's been weeks of sort of wringing hands about what we should or shouldn't do. I think we're fine at this point, but to be respectful of the conversations we've had with the administration and the other house, we should at least continue the conversation at this point, from my perspective. Okay, 323.
All right, Senate Bill 323 was amended in the House. You'll recall this is the one that would establish a $3 million grant for the Maryland Arts Capital Grant Program for fiscal 23 through 28. The House amended those years and instead made that applicable to fiscal years 24 through 29.
There would be another one of those that's happening. I'm personally fine with that. Senator looks like she's fine with that. So we will concur. $366.
All right, Senate Bill 366, this one has to do with the unique identification number for businesses. You'll recall the House bill came over with an alteration of the membership of the work group by striking the requirement that MDH participate, and the House made the same change to the Senate bill.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, and I missed it in that sneeze. What was the? What did we do? What did they do?
So, with the membership of this work group, to look at unique business identification numbers, the House had struck the Maryland Department of Health, and they made that same, which you guys concurred with on the House bill, and they made the same change to the Senate bill, so now they both would match.
Oh,
these
so
amendments.
we're concur on that.
Okay.
Okay.
778.
All right, Senate Bill 778 is the RISE bill. You'll recall you voted on the House bill just a couple of days ago that made some alterations to the program that largely came from the department. The House made those same changes to the Senate bill.
So concur on that too. All right, very good. That was relatively painless. Let's see if this can be.
House Bill 44.
So House Bill 44 is a bill that you're secondary on. The bill, as Finance has sent it to you, continues the Qualified Electric Vehicle Recharging Equipment program through 2023. And that program is the rebates are going to increase by $600,000, so the program's going to be able to issue $1.8 million each fiscal year in rebates for the electric vehicle recharging equipment. And then there's a provision in there that's going to authorize a transfer of $10 million from the Strategic Energy Investment Fund to the TTF to try and revive tax credits for electric vehicles that were authorized, but for which there wasn't enough money to issue the tax credits. If you'll recall, the tax credit for electric vehicles was a capped program, and so once the MVA had issued all the tax credits, they couldn't issue any more tax credits. So the idea here is the $10 million would get transferred to the TTF so MVA could issue the tax credits to the backlog of people who had applied for and qualified for the tax credit before July 1st, 2020. I believe there's also another amendment from that Finance added that would require a study on the VEEP contract for emissions. For the emissions, they contract with a contractor to do the emissions testing that you do on your vehicles, and the study would basically require that before they can go to bid on the contract, they need to do a year-long study on what the best practices are and any environmental concerns about their plans moving forward for the VEEP process.
So I got a call from the administrator today, and they had a few concerns about that. I just went over and talked to staff in Finance, and I'm convinced that from a policy perspective, the policy issues, that those were considered fully by the committee, and they're interested in moving forward. Out of respect, though, to the administrator, and so I could get back to her, continue that conversation, I would hold this just because of that one issue. In general, though, I think this bill is ready to go. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Senator Elfreth?
Thank you, Mr. Not a question, just more of a comment for the committee. This is a great program. It's incredibly popular. My district loves it. But I wonder in the future if we should think about means testing it, because it feels like the tax credit's just going to folks who are already going to buy the vehicle and not necessarily changing any behavior. So just wanted to put that thought out into the committee. Thank you.
Gotcha. Senator McCray?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure, you knew all the optics around this whole BEAT conversation and the proposal that they put out. Okay. All right.
I do. Senator Edwards?
So where's the $10 million coming from again?
The Strategic Energy Investment Fund, SEIF.
Steve?
How much money's in that pot?
50 million.
How much?
50 million annually comes into it roughly, and it's been increasing.
And it's going to go to the Transportation Trust Fund?
Transportation Trust Fund, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? So we'll just so have the opportunity to get back to the administrator, but we'll put that on. We'll be able to, I hope, deal with this bill tomorrow. Okay, 495.
House Bill 495 is the Income Tax Internal Revenue Code Amendments Decoupling. So this bill addresses an issue that came up this past year where we have a provision in tax law that says if the federal government makes a change to the calculation of federal taxable income that then flows through and impacts the state to the tune of more than $5 million, the state automatically decouples for 1 year to give the legislature an opportunity to make the policy decision on whether they want to incorporate that change into their tax code or decouple from their tax code. The way the language is worded, it only applies to a change that impacts the current year. And so that's current law. So the bill that you have in front of you and the situation that arose for the first time this past year was what happens if the federal government retroactively changes tax law. And they did that this past year. And so by doing that, the state wasn't automatically decoupled from those provisions because it wasn't a current year change, which is what the statute says. So the language here in front of you is going to say that going forward, if there's a change, whether it be current year change or a retroactive change, the state's going to decouple for a 12-month period so that the legislature can consider whether to take up the policy change that's being implemented at the federal level.
Right, and it could be a change, it could be a tax increase or a decrease, right?
Yeah, that's the way I read it.
Senator?
Yeah, one question, that was a very helpful explanation. Is what you described is the bill as it came in from the House?
No, the bill as it came in from the House tried to address, there are individuals who filed amended returns based on the change at the federal law as soon as it was made. The House bill as introduced would have forced those individuals to recapture any tax benefit that those individuals or companies had received because of the change at the federal law. The House bill, as it was passed over to the Senate, really just deals with this if it ever happens again in the future, and doesn't try to rectify what happened this
You're
past
saying the
year.
House bill as it came over does not try to rectify it?
Correct.
So what you described is the House bill as we have it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, that's what I want to clarify, thank you.
So, bottom line, though, that all this really does is give the state, gives us, the legislature, when a change is made, gives us 12 months to figure out whether or not we want to do it or not.
Yes, correct.
All right? All's in favor? Unanimous. Yes, Senator McCray.
Senate Bill 578, same subject matter, didn't move out of the committee, and just wanted to see if we can move it in the same posture as the House.
Okay.
Awfully agreeable.
578. Who could that sponsor be? Somebody who's gotten way too many bills this year?
Over there. It's only one of two people.
So, what do you think, everybody? I'm not so sure. I mean, he's got enough, right? It's not like it's not going to become law. He doesn't need the other bill.
I'll defer to the chair.
All right, all those in favor? Unanimous. All right, let's skip down to 981.
This is a local bill from Prince George's County Delegation, relates to their limited tax sale process. The bill limits that process to properties that are only vacant or a vacant lot cited as unfit for habitation on a housing violation. It also, for the list of eligible participants in the limited auction, it narrows the federal government eligibility and veteran eligibility to those individuals who have a connection with the county. And then it also clarifies if a non-eligible person participates and purchases a property in the limited auction, current law says that that certificate is void. The bill clarifies that when that certificate becomes void, any interest for the purchasing individual is forfeit. We have a favorable letter from the Senate delegation.
The three of you like this, right? All right, all those in favor? Senator Peters? That's what you get for speaking up. All right, 1180.
All right, House Bill 1180 is a cross-file to Senate bill. However, the Senate bill is still with this committee. It dealt with an existing authorization to do a tax credit based on level of airport noise, and it came in. The impact of changing a credit like this, even though it was authorizing, would mean that if a county is indeed already authorizing it, they would have to make the same change. You do have a reprint on your desk. The House did some significant amendments here. First of all, it authorizes the county to choose whether to decrease the decibel level for purposes of their property tax credit. And it also authorizes them to set a different value of the credit based on what decibel level noise they're creating the credit for. So there's a House amendments on that, and then Matt was going to, there are some other amendments.
There should be another set of amendments in front of you. For House Bill 1180, I just needed the reprint. The amendments would incorporate language that was in a finance bill that would address a situation that's going on at the airport with regard to peer-to-peer car rentals and rental car companies. And it would authorize the Maryland Aviation Administration to treat like services as being in the same class. This is for offering contracts to vendors at the airport. And then enforce rules and regulation with regard to certain commercial activities within a 7-mile radius of the main terminal at the airport.
I thought this was about noise.
It is. It's about the airport.
Well, it's,
I'm dealing with that with the Gaithersburg Airport right now.
Right, right.
so this is broadening from a noise issue to general issues at the airport. And so the idea is...
Yeah, before we go too much further, so we dealt with the peer-to-peer issue for a couple years. We passed out a bill that is done effectively, where the negotiation on the rates for the like the Toros as opposed to the rental companies, and it's been settled and everyone kind of agreed to it. We also, the Senate passed out a bill on issues related to the airport and the fact that they have this fee that is collected that is needed to keep the operations of rental cars working at the airport, although the peer-to-peers do not pay that. And that was not an issue that we dealt with in that bill. And I actually raised this, I think, when we talked about this in our voting session. And it was decided that let's not muck that up right now. So this is an option. And I'll tell you right now, I talked to Delegate Kaiser this morning about this because I never like putting on, I know some people do this, I don't like putting bills on to other people's work product without them knowing about it. So she knows about it. I talked about it. I told her that we would discuss it today. The interesting thing is that the peer-to-peer issue was a Ways and Means issue, but the Vital bill issue, the airport issue, even though that was a fee-related thing, ended up from finance to ECM. And so there's a lot of cross-cutting here, and the only reason that I wanted to bring it forward is an opportunity to try to solve what I think is the whole picture. More than anything, I wanted to make sure that we had this discussion and to think if it was worthy of this. A Senate bill is already over in the House that does this, Senator Bider's bill. I believe it is much more likely it gets action if we attach it to this bill. But I'm eyes wide open transparency on this one about what's happening here. I don't know if they're going to look at it more favorably in Ways and Means, but I think it's possible. But I think you can make an argument that leave well enough alone for now, and see what happens with that bill over in ECM. But that's the lay of the land. Senator McCray?
Mr. Chair, I was just trying to look up the posture that Senate Bill 849, whether that was going to pass. That's the identical to this bill currently. And this bill is this House Bill 1180. I just want to make sure that we're not messing that piece of it up because it may be a serious
I don't think
issue.
we've moved it yet, have we?
No, we haven't moved it.
No.
And the Pam Vital bill, that did the same thing that you're amending on it. That's this exact same thing that we've already voted out of this chamber.
Yes.
Got it.
Senator Young?
I'm looking at the first part. What does this change in regards to all the other airports?
You mean the noise aspect?
Yeah.
So the noise aspect, which is the top half of page 2, effectively, is it's only applicable to the noise zone around BWI. Sorry, was there another?
Well, the way I'm reading this, it says governing body of a county or a municipal corporation. It's only referring to BWI?
Correct. If you look at lines 6 through 7. But, since BWI is, that noise zone extends over 3 different counties, then each of those counties has the authority, would impact them. So that's existing law. It's altering the noise from 75 to 65. That's as introduced. What the House added is some flexibility for the county governing bodies to, they can choose to provide the credit within a smaller noise contour than the 65, right? Because that expands the geographic area that's going from 75 to 65 expands the geographic area of houses that would be impacted.
I'm okay with that. I was just reading the new part, and it referred to county or municipal corporation, which sounded like any airport in the state, but I see the BWI in the old part.
Okay.
So if it's just BWI, it's fine.
Senator Elfreth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the noise issue, I can tell you, because the flight path runs right over my district as well, the implementation of the next gen software that they're using is having flights fly in lower than they had before. So it is creating, when the original law was originally passed, it is a different situation now in terms of noise and air pollution than it was in the past. So I think that's the first part of the bill that I encourage folks to consider. And then the second part, as we've discussed, I appreciate that the peer-to-peer bill was a sensitive compromise that we all agreed to. We do need to address the infrastructure of BWI, and so I'd ask colleagues to consider this amendment and this kind of strategy here to ensure that we're not, BWI is one of our greatest assets, and we're not robbing it of necessary funding to keep its infrastructure afloat. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Senator King?
Dealing with in our local airport is the flight schools.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, I'm sorry. I missed Senator Corman.
I thought you were looking at me, okay.
I did,
Oh.
but I'd forgotten. I apologize. You're a long way down there, Senator. Go ahead, Senator King.
The flight schools are the ones that are causing all the noise at the airport in my district, and everybody's pointing the finger at everyone else. No one wants to take any blame for that kind of noise. And I just look at a tax credit here. I think that would really open a huge can of worms.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting problem. I don't know if you noticed, we had a request, and we included in the budget some, I think it was $100,000, hold money to deal with flight pattern issues at Martin State Airport because of the helicopters that come in and out of there, and how they seem to be coming over the same location every time. Yeah, I mean, it's a continuing issue, and it could open it up. I'm going to guess that Senator Young's question had to deal with his airport.
Looking at two things, yeah, we have the second most busy airport in the state, certainly not as busy as BWI, but BWI has just changed patterns, and we have planes coming in the lower over Frederick City from BWI now too, which they never did before.
Right.
So it certainly might be affecting us in the future from that.
Yeah. All right, Senator Corman.
Yes, sir.
Sorry
Thank you.
about that.
Just for my own understanding on the noise issue, it appears it's enabling, correct? Because it says they may choose to get the tax credit. So is that
Correct.
correct in that understanding?
Correct.
Okay. And then secondly, in agreement to my friend from Anne Arundel County, I think the strategy with the peer-to-peer here, my understanding is that the Maryland Aviation Administration will support in Senator Bidle's bill as well. And so not only will it help with some of those issues, but also some other issues in regards to safety and operational and other concerns as well. So I think it's a good strategy, and I appreciate the conversation.
Very good. Okay, I will have another word with the chair over on the House side, but as I said, I think it's the right thing to do. So I hope we can get there. All right, 1219.
1219, this is a local Baltimore City bill dealing with tax sales. It requires that the notice sent to the owner of a property before it's advertised for sale be sent first-class certified mail. We have a favorable letter from the delegation.
All those in favor? Look at you. You're still raising your hand. You must want to do this. Okay. McCray. You might as well keep your hand up. 1222.
Senate Bill 1222, this is another Baltimore City delegation bill dealing with tax sales. This requires that the notice sent include an itemized list of the source and amount of each tax due that is being sought to be collected.
All's in favor? Okay, Senator McCray's got that one. All right, 1374, Senator Peters got this one. Everybody want this, right? Everybody knows what this is, right?
Let me.
Go ahead. Is there a problem? Is there an issue?
No issue. Just this is, we're gonna hold this for a day or two. This is just last call for everyone. You've got a chart in front of you that is the amendment that's gonna add projects to the prior auth bill. This isn't everything that's in the prior auth bill. This is just the Senate's gonna add to it. If you all have prior auths out there, you want to make sure that, and they're not in the bill as introduced, you want to make sure that they're on this list, because once the body passes it out, I don't think there's any plan to go to conference on it. And just to highlight two new things that are happening this year, the capital budget, as was passed this year, eliminated LBI's matching fund requirements. So matching funds are no longer required for LBIs. In this bill, the bill as introduced reaches back to 2019 and 2020 and eliminates matching fund requirements for those projects that had matching fund requirements for those 2 years. So if you have a project that's asking for a matching fund extension for 2019 and 2020, they wouldn't be included in the bill because the bill is eliminating matching fund requirements for those 2 years.
Okay. Sounds good to me. All right, so we're pre-voting this. Those in favor? Okay. All right. Anybody want to talk sports betting? Senator Zucker does. 9:40. So we had a hour and a half or so ago, the work group, a little public presentation on some of the things they were thinking. We have the House bill in our possession, and the work group presented some ideas and plans for amending that. Say fundamentally, I think we certainly appreciated all the House's work on this, the good work on it, and kind of extended it, if you will, dealing with trying to deal with this idea of who should be able to get a license. I think that's the fundamentals of a lot of this. At the end of the day, the work group, and Senator Zucker can chime in whenever he likes, but the work group basically came up with the idea that since we seem to be getting an enormous amount of requests from all kinds of folks in lots of different directions, that probably the fairest thing to do was just to do a free market approach, if you will, and allow pretty much anybody, if they could meet the criteria, and there are different levels and different types of licenses, but if they can meet the criteria in any of those, they're willing to put in their own expertise and their own finances to get it going, they should have the opportunity to do it. And with that, I don't know if Matt can describe, or if Senator Zucker, who is the work group leader, if you want to say something or not.
I guess let me first thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the work group. I think when you told us to get together and work out sports betting, we were committed based on what the voters wanted to get it done. But we also realized that there were a number of things that we wanted to get done while going through the process, and that's A, making sure that we were staying competitive with our neighboring states. B, try to get us up and running as quick as possible in order to meet that competitiveness. But what we've all been saying from the start as well is making sure that it was a transparent and inclusive process where we could have meaningful, small, minority, and women-owned business participation. And, I could have our great analyst, Matt Bennett, sort of walk through, but we wanted to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to have, skin in the game and have an opportunity not only to be part of this, but to grow, especially when it comes to your small, minority, women-owned businesses. We have adopted a lot of, or some of the same structure that we did in Senate Bill 4 last year that passed out of the Senate unanimously. And we also took what was a good product from the speaker and went ahead and tried to do what we could to make it that much more inclusive. And that was really, it was really a work group product. We were doing our best not to pick winners and losers, but to let the market work itself out. There might be places that we yet not know about that wanted to try to get a bricks and mortar license or a mobile license, and this allows them the opportunity to do that. And what you'll hear our great analysts go through is that we've also set up a fund that will help not only with some of the licensing costs for these small businesses when we have different class of licenses, but also help them with targeted training and operational assistance. So again, it's all about growing and making sure that we remain competitive with our neighboring states, and also making sure that we're protecting the consumer. We've added strong consumer protection language in the bill, making sure we're looking out for our consumers and making sure that we're doing right by them while still achieving one of the top goals besides the inclusiveness and transparency is to make sure that we're generating revenue, making sure that we're bringing in the taxpayer dollars that are going to other states, bringing them to Maryland, and investing in our children's education future. This is about also investing in the Blueprint Fund. And I believe that what is now the work group product that Matt can go through, and then the other members of the work group can also feel free to chime in. I feel like we have a roadmap to do that, and it is the intent, and not only the intent. We are going to get sports betting done this year, and this is a roadmap to get that done. So I'll turn it over to Matt Bennett, and he can kind of walk through the different classes of licenses and the structure, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions as we go through.
All right, we will start with the structure of the licensing. You have 5 licenses that are being identified in the bill as the work group has come back with it. You've got 2 Class A licenses. There's the Class A1. Those are the VLT operators with more than 1,000 machines, the horse racing licensee in Anne Arundel County, and sports facilities. And when we say sports facilities, we mean professional sports teams. So it envisions 3 teams: the Ravens, the Orioles, and the Washington football team. Those entities would have an initial fee of $2 million and a renewal fee every 5 years of $500,000. You then also have Class A2. Class A2 are your VLT operators with less than 1,000 machines, so the smaller VLT operators. Their initial fee is going to be $1 million, and the 5-year renewal fee is going to be $300,000. From their initial fee, 5% is going to go to a new fund that's being established by the bill, the Small Minority-Owned and Women-Owned Business Fund. This new fund is going to try and help disadvantaged businesses get into this market. It could be used to help smaller businesses meet their initial fee, training that may be needed, things like that. Now you also have Class B licenses. These are more open-ended than the Class A licenses. The Class B licenses are in 2 categories: Class B1 and Class B2. Class B2 is anyone who has less than 25 employees and less than $3 million in gross receipts. Their licensing or their fee would be $50,000 with a renewal fee of $10,000. Anyone
And that-
else?
Where did that come from?
It was a modification from a program that's already in existence.
The Small Business Reserve?
Right. I believe that was there were some of those matrix were used in there. Anybody who's not a Class B, anybody who doesn't fit Class B2 becomes a class or can be a Class B1. And a Class B1 doesn't have any requirements on it or any identifying characteristics, but they would have to pay an initial fee of $250,000 and a renewal fee on the 5-year period of $50,000. Now, all the Class A and Class B licenses are physical facility licenses. They don't entitle you to a mobile license. The mobile licensing is separate and apart from the Class A and the Class B licenses. And the mobile licenses would pay $500,000 for an initial fee and $100,000 renewal every 5 years. The Class A's and the Class B's, the work group would like to see getting up and running as soon as possible. So there isn't any, they don't have to wait for the SWARC to issue regulations. SWARC would say whether you met the
Everybody know what SWARC is? Tell us what SWARC is.
That is the, I'm blanking. Sports Wagering Awarding Commission.
This is a construct from the House bill.
The House bill. And so the House bill had envisioned there being a cap on the number of licenses. So SWARC was going to have to wait until all the applications for licenses came in and then look at everybody to see who should get a license and then make decisions. By opening it up to everyone, the idea I think from the work group was that SWARC wouldn't have to wait till everybody filed. They could start approving licenses as they came in on a first come first served basis.
And what's the criteria they use?
They're going to develop criteria. Well, there is criteria that's built into the statute that has to do with depending on what county you're in, the radius of a VLT facility to where you're located. In the more urban jurisdictions, there's going to be a 1.5 mile radius, so you're not going to have people on top of each other. In the rural jurisdictions, there's going to be a 15-mile radius around Class A licensees. So with
Now,
regard,
all these folks have criteria. There's the SWART criteria or evaluation, but there's a basic criteria that lottery is going to handle.
right? So lottery is still going to run you through the background check. You can't be a criminal, be associated with criminal elements. So you'll be forced out if you have that.
That means Peters and I can't be friends anymore.
Apparently, it's come up before with licensees, but lottery gives you a chance to disassociate. So,
Okay, how quickly do we think, in the physical licenses, how quickly will they be able to be awarded, or not so much awarded, but verified and acknowledged and move forward with implementation?
lottery was hopeful if they're not having to wait for SWARC to issue the regulations, that it could be up and running by the fall.
Okay, so theoretically, I know everybody in that industry sort of pegs things on big sporting events. So theoretically, it should be ready for the football season.
Right.
Senator Young.
Could you go back over the criteria for A2 and B1 again?
Yeah. Sorry, I've run out of printouts at this point. Let me see if we can get some copies made.
Did we put anything in the bill that, like at the Oriole Park, they can't bet on the Orioles, or the Ravens, they can't bet on the Ravens? Any limitation like that?
No, in fact, I think they that was one of the things that the Stadium Authority had come in seeking, was one of the components of sports betting is in-play betting, and so the hope is to drive fans into the stadium who do want to bet on the game at the facility, I believe.
I just think that really starts to open things up for a little corruption.
One of the things the work group in that vein did consider was betting that would be against public policy. So like betting on injuries, betting on replays, betting on penalties. That is something that's in the bill and is prohibited.
I just hate to think that a pitcher might tell all his friends that I'm going to be the final reliever and I'm going to just float them over the plate, so bet on the other team.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great point. The question is, how do you even stop that with mobile betting? I mean, that could exist, anywhere. When we open this up, at least from my perspective, I don't know how you would even begin to govern something like that. Sort of, Senator Zucker, you have a comment for that?
Yeah, I was just going to add that there's, some stakeholder amendments that we can consider that could also help address that beyond what Mr. Bennett and the chair said, is that just making sure that if there's an investigation, so say for instance there's, I don't want to use one professional team as an example. So let's say there's the CJZ, which is my initials league, and there was a likelihood of some kind of corruption with that. The authorities would cooperate with the CJZ league to figure out what happened with their players to make sure the league can also address it. Which would hopefully resolve. The bottom line is that, the whole point of driving people to these stadiums is they're going to be betting with their hearts and their minds on this stuff, and if we just make sure that the major league teams are cooperating with authorities, then that'll hopefully make sure that they can also handle it in league.
Senator Quarterman?
Thank you. Question in regards to the A1 and sports facilities. Those would be the professional sports facilities you said, as far as the big guys, so to speak. So if any of the minor leagues across the state, whether it was any other, because there was some interest in some of the minor league entities, would they be subject to that $2 million licensing fee?
No, conceivably, assuming that they have more than 25 employees, it looks like they would be in B1.
Okay. And then the second question I had with regards to the mobile, is that tied to the A1s, or they just have the ability, they get the brick and mortar and then they can option to get the mobile as well? Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Yes, there is no requirement for the brick and mortar. Anybody can opt into the mobile. The mobile is going to be a little bit more complicated, and we didn't quite get there yet. The mobile is going to be issued by SWARC after they have adopted regulations. And the regulations are going to take into account disadvantaged business participation in this market, and whether there should be any sort of remedial measures to encourage either minority or women-owned businesses participating in the market. And one of the things the work group thought was important and can lead to success in the market is being able to be first to the market. And so the work group is suggesting to the commission that they should take a look at whether there's a way to give some lead time to those types of organizations, to maybe encourage partnership with the bigger organizations. So the mobile could conceivably take a little bit longer to get up and running, but that's because the commission's going to need to do its due diligence before it makes any determination on giving any advantage to these companies. The work group did discuss making this an emergency bill so that the commission would be able to get up and running as fast as possible.
Senator Alford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of questions, and I'll start kind of in a reverse order. When I met with, I want one of the three major sports teams, they told me that they wouldn't allow people to leave the ballpark to bet and then go back in. Is that still?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't touch that part of the bill.
So I hope that would help Senator
so
Young's
that-
concerns. That you couldn't throughout the game go out and make bets and come back into the game. Okay.
I mean, isn't that like a criteria that a lot of venues
Yeah.
have on their own?
Right.
The reentry, yeah.
Right.
And
Okay.
we've also put, the work group recommendation as well, Senator, is not to put a limit on just the sporting events days, that they would be year-round, especially since your M&T Stadium, your Camden Yards, your Washington football team stadium, we want to drive people there and have it as an economic development tool, so it would be year-round and not subject to event days or attendance requirements.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. On the how we determine the class, is that, I assume that's how they will apply for their first license, but say a Class B2 does so well in their first 2 years and they grow, will they then graduate to a B1 when they reapply?
There's so we're keeping the House language on the 5-year renewal. So if they're growing, and we hope they do, we hope they're successful, then if they are no longer in that criteria, then they would move up to the next level after that 5 years.
5 years. Thank you. Okay. And then last question, it might be for Matt. We have a lot of bingo halls in Anne Arundel County. Where would they fall in this?
It would depend on the size of the bingo hall, whether they have over 25 employees or under 25 employees.
Okay.
But the shorter answer is Class B. They'd be either a B1 or a B2.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator King?
Yeah, back to Senator Alford's question. If I'm at a football game and I want to make a bet, I don't have to leave to make that bet. I could make it just on my phone, right?
Well, they can control their airspace, right? So,
I assume, yeah.
Matt, right?
Right. I think.
So in other words, if your app on your phone is XYZ app, and the stadium is using ABC app, then you may not be able to use the one on your phone. You may have to download their app to be able to use it while you
Right.
were there. Am I thinking about this right?
Yeah,
Matt?
that was the way.
Well, I mean, it's just like the DC apps right now, because people that live in my area have to go across the DC line in order to use the app.
Right, but this is I think what you presented was a very specific case that any of the people who acquire a mobile app can, at their location, wherever their location is, they control the airspace, if you will.
Okay.
So they can
Okay.
say that only it works there. Is that correct, Matt?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Senator Young?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Back to what I asked about in the first place. I would think that there ought to be some rule that no employee. That's in? Okay, good. But
I didn't hear what you said.
that no employee can bet.
Oh,
I mean,
uh-huh.
the groundskeeper at the game could be in there, get
Right.
tips.
Right.
But the B1 licenses, anybody not a B2, initial fee 250,000, renewal of 50,000. I can think of 100 businesses in Frederick that could qualify for that. Each Walmart could have one, Target, the research facilities,
Yeah, but they couldn't be on top of one another. Remember that there's a geographical requirement.
okay, how much is the geographical?
15 miles?
15 miles in the rural areas from a Class A, and then 1.5 miles around Class A's in the urban areas and Class B's. Class B's all have 1.5 mile radius.
1.5 miles in Frederick City can still get you 6 or 8.
That's a lot of licenses.
And how about the limitation on B2s? Is that the same thing apply?
Same thing. It's it just the zone the exclusion zones are based on A and B.
Okay, so, the VLT operator with less than 1,000 machines. The veterans clubs have 5.
The veteran clubs have pull tab machines. They're
Oh,
not they're not
pull tabs. They
considered
aren't called
video lottery.
VLTs, that's right. Okay. I guess we better keep that. All right, but there's no limit otherwise. We could end up with, several hundred of these.
Theoretically.
Okay. I
Senator
just want to
Peters.
know if I get questions.
Senator Peters?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to comment on the ballpark limitation. I know that University of Maryland came to us a couple years ago and wanted to serve beer in the stadium. And the issue was that the individuals would go out to the tailgates and then they'd come back and there'd be nobody watching the game. That was the biggest problem. So we approved that they could serve beer in Maryland Stadium for football, Terrapin football, and no one is allowed to leave now. You can't leave the game. Once you're gone, you're gone. So that may have to do with attendance and television and that sort of thing. But in addition, that also may have to do with them wanting them to patronize their restaurants and their food areas. So it may have something to do with, the airspace, but I think most of it has to do with you're in, we want to capture you and maximize the dollars you're gonna have there at the stadium. So that is the first thing. Second thing is, for B2s, some businesses have 25 employees and do 2.5 million. It's kind of hard and fast. 25 and 3 million. Is there some flexibility there in terms of or? Because I just, for the B2s, I just thought maybe, I know in state
As
law,
flexible
it's
as we want
50
it to be,
employees
we
is
can.
a small business.
Yeah, it's flexible as we wanted the kid. It was developed from that program. We were trying to find something to latch onto that made sense.
Mhm.
And I think it includes both in that language. Is that right?
Yeah, we have it as an and. You could make it an or so that.
Yeah, I just don't know how you're going to get companies' gross revenues. It's kind of hard unless, they're private companies.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I think it'd be collection-wise easier because.
Yeah, Senator Peters?
I'm saying that it's really hard to get private companies' gross revenues. Of course, if they applied for the license, they could have put it in there, but
Right.
I think it should be and or, for employees. And I know that the state, it's codified in state language, that 50 employees is a small company, so I just thought I'd make that suggestion.
Okay.
Change it to or.
Senator Edwards?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions, if I might. So, as I understand the conversation here, this is sort of open-ended. There's no limit. By that, I mean open-ended. There's no limit in any of these categories other than A1, where it's VLT, Anne Arundel County horse racing license, and 3 big sports centers. Is that correct? Yes. And is it open-ended in time frame wise? In other words, 5 years from now, if I wanted to get into this, if I met the criteria and wanted to be B1 or B2 or mobile, I could do that.
There is a termination date that the work group hadn't dealt with because it is out in the future. I believe it's either 2024 or 2028. I know they're two different, but the awarding commission does technically terminate at some future date. So that's a policy decision for the work group and the committee. Do you wanna have it going out past a certain date, or do you want to stop awarding after a certain date?
Okay, I just asking because I didn't hear that kind of comment.
There are some issues still to be ironed out.
The 1.5 mile from A1s, does that mean none of these other categories can be within 1.5 miles of an A1?
In Western
No,
Maryland, it's 50.
I'm going down the list here. I'll get to that next. It's 1.5 mile A1 in the class here on this sheet. none of these other categories can open anything up within 1.5 miles of a Class A1, correct? And, well, yeah, but these are urban. I mean, what's listed here is urban anyway. A2, we'll call it rural or the small VLT places. It's 15 miles. None of these can open up, none of these other categories can open up within 15 miles. So, and then it's hard to hear in here sometimes, and I'm not sure what you said. When we got to the B1s and B2s, is there a mile distinguishing between those?
I think I should clarify the radius is applicable to Class A1 and A2. It doesn't change whether you're an A1 or an A2. And the same thing for Bs. The radius is just applicable to Bs in general. It doesn't change whether you're B1 or B2.
So in a rural area, if you're a B1, there can be no other Bs within 15 miles of that one site.
15 miles only applies to Class A in Allegheny, Cecil, and Worcester County.
So I'll get back to my question. I'm kind of confused, which isn't hard to do. The B1s, if I open a B1 in Cumberland, Frostburg's less than 15 miles from Cumberland. Can someone else open a B1 or a B2 in Frostburg?
Yes, the Bs have a 1.5 no matter where they are.
No matter where they're,
in the
okay,
state,
that's clear there. I wasn't clear on what you said previously. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So my plan is to just keep talking through this stuff and see if we can clarify a few things, and we may come back to a couple of them real quick, like Senator Peters' suggestion a minute ago, and we'll see how we all feel about it. What I'd like to do is get a flavor of where everybody feels they are, right? And have Matt continue working on drafting the amendments. The amendments aren't in an amendment form; they're just in the descriptive form and the chart and everything. So we got to get all that done. But I'd like to get as close to sort of conceptually voting, if we can, as we move through this. And we'll go from there. Okay. Tomorrow morning, we may vote. Maybe not. Senator Griffith? Is there an issue with timing?
No, just morning.
What do we got, 5 more days?
5 more days, but people are tired tonight, I think.
We're tired, all right. There's no question about it. And I appreciate everybody. We're coming down the stretch, though. I feel like we're close on this. I don't know if everyone feels that way.
Yeah.
Why don't we just do sort of a conceptual vote right now? People generally okay with this? Raise your hand. Okay, so generally everybody seems like we're moving in the right direction. All right.
So can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
If anyone has an amendment or some change that they want to make between now and tomorrow morning, if they got to Matt either late this afternoon or early tomorrow morning, you can call them as early as 5, I would assume.
You mean 5 tonight?
Then we might be ready to vote this out.
Right. Okay. Yes, we will. We'll take those sort of formalized things up, and you can give them to Matt. Let's just keep going here for a little while and see how far we can get. Senator Peters, Roosevelt.
Thank you. On the geographic restrictions, I think I got the math, but is it first come, first served? The first person in gets it, and then other people are blocked out within that geographic area?
Yeah, obviously the named Class A's are already the first ones in.
Right.
But for the Class B's, yes, the first ones in would geographically block out the other one.
Let me just raise a question here. I don't have strong feelings about this, and the work group did all the work, but it seems to me that that's a little bit of a problem in terms of promoting competition. because, you know, the most savvy will be first in the door, a little bit like getting vaccines. And if we really want to be competitive and open and let, you know, folks who aren't normally in the game get in, it probably tilts the field against them. Just to raise
Senator
the question.
Zushin has a response to that.
Yeah, so the radius language came over from the House bill, and you know, I'm very mindful of Rocky Gap and Ocean Downs, and making sure that they have the ability to thrive in their jurisdiction. So the amendment, the way that the bill came over from the House was in a way to make sure that that Rocky Gap and Ocean Downs had the support that they needed, and that's why there's that geographic. I think that's part of the reason why they have that geographic radius.
Senator Corbin had a question.
Thank you. Not really a question, more of a comment, and some of the concerns I know from my friend from Frederick County brought up in regards to going in and out and things of that nature. My understanding from looking at some of this is the governing bodies of Major League Baseball and NFL and things of that nature, they set up the criteria as far as how it can be done within their facilities, because they're already doing it in other states and things of that nature. So I think that's already spelled out between those entities, and I don't really think it's something that we have to get too much in the weeds on, because I think they already have that kind of covered. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chairman, but that's my understanding.
Okay. Senator Griffith?
Yeah, I was just going to say, also in response to Senator Rosapep, I think what helped me think more about the competition was, you know, the bill as it came over had so few opportunities for people to participate. So, yeah.
Okay. Did we get through everything? I don't know that we did. Did you get through the whole?
So that we got through the licensing, I think.
Right,
Now
keep
we've
rolling. Yep,
we've
let's
got
get through it.
some other things.
Yep, please do.
So with regard to the tax rates, the tax rate for Class A1, Class A2, and mobile is going to be a flat 15% tax rate. The tax rate for the B1s and the B2s is going to be a flat 13%. There were some issues with what happens if one of the sports facilities wants to use a casino operator as a partner. The work group was working on language to require that if the sports facility is in a county that has a casino, the sports facility needs to use the casino that's located in that county if they're going to contract with a casino. They can't contract with casinos that are in different counties.
Right. Senator Griffith.
Thank you. And I just had one comment, and it was kind of follow up to Senator Quarterman's point for those smaller teams. To if there's no casino in their jurisdiction, then this language doesn't apply, especially for those smaller teams. And also, it doesn't require a team to participate with a casino. So a team or a sports facility could partner with a MBE, for example, and this provision is non-applicable. Correct?
Correct. And I wasn't precise. The sports facilities are really just the three big teams. The Senator Quarterman's teams that he was referring to would technically be a B2 or a B license. Yeah, B1 or B2. So they wouldn't come under this purview anyway.
Senator Peters has another question.
So what about the city? You got county here, but you got two sports facilities.
Oh,
you got one casino.
When I said city, the county and city were being treated as the same.
Right, but we only got one casino and two sports facilities.
Right. So if either of those sports facilities wanted to partner with a casino, they would be restricted to partnering with Horseshoe.
Okay. I guess they'll compete. Darwinism at its best. All right.
I mean, this is it's funny as I've thought through this. It sort of begs the question. We in sort of in the perfect capitalist system, if you will, there's a free market where everything decisions are made based on the economics. The reality is that by its very nature, we're making some choices not to do that, putting up geographic restrictions and things like that. This is a regulated business, is the bottom line. But it's probably the closest free market that you can get and still be in the process of regulating and ensuring, hopefully, that we get a good product across the state. Interesting sort of dilemma in thinking about it from an economic standpoint. More than you want to think about, probably. Keeps me up at night.
At least this afternoon.
Yeah, keeps me up, right. Go ahead.
All right.
Let's keep rolling.
The work group also wanted to make clear that a sports wagering facility would still be subject to local zoning laws, so local zoning laws still govern. There's some consumer protection language. There was a provision added that sports books are going to be required to comply with all state and federal data security laws. The sports books will be prohibited from sharing personally identifiable information with third parties. Any data that is stored by sports books needs to be stored for the next 10 years. There's the explicit language to create a voluntary exclusion program for people to sign up for who feel like their sports betting habits have become out of control. There's a provision that prohibits targeting ads to minors or other at-risk individuals. And there's a requirement that the sports books prominently publish complaint procedures for individuals to make complaints. The House had limited sports facilities and Pimlico to operations basically when they're having events. The work group amendments strike those limitations on when sports wagering can take place at those locations. There were some miscellaneous requirements here that would require sports applicants for a license to identify their subcontractors up front rather than waiting for 6 months after issuance. And there was concern over a waiver requirement in the body of the bill. So we're going to make clear that the waiver of any licensing process does not apply to any minority business participation requirements. And then there were provisions that we talked about the fund that was going to be established within the Department of Commerce. That fund's going to be used to support application assistance, to support operations of the smaller businesses, and to provide targeted training for people interested in getting involved in the industry. And again, that fund's going to be funded with 5% of the Class A licenses. And then finally, the work group included a provision to repeal the prohibition on the hotel at Ocean Downs.
Senator Peters.
Active today in my corner. For locations under a sports wagering facility subject to local zoning laws. Now, we didn't do this when we brought the casinos in, correct?
No, we did. Yeah,
Did we?
Yeah, there was an amendment on the floor. I can remember it was Delegate Wade Koch, and I'll never forget it.
Okay, so will they have to go back if they're the casinos to get, how would that be handled? Anyway, something to think about.
Right, that's
between
still
now
probably
and
something
tomorrow
that the
afternoon,
group
not tomorrow morning.
wants to think about.
Tomorrow afternoon.
Early morning.
The second question is, I thought we were going to have some HBCU language here that we.
Sorry, that was part of my notes at the top. The work group also added language mandating $3 million, $1.5 million each for two different HBCUs to expand programs that will help individuals get prepared to participate in this industry. I think there's a lot of data analytics type work that goes on with these companies, and so this would create a mandate for fiscal 2023 to provide them some resources to start up those types of classes.
Chairman?
Yes.
So what is the schedule in the bill or in the work group on when all this would launch?
Ideally, there was also an amendment to make this an emergency bill, so the governor and the presiding officers would appoint the commission membership as soon as possible. Hopefully, the Class A and B licenses applicants would come in as soon as possible after that to start the approval process. The commission would issue regulations, hopefully emergency regulations, to get the mobile licensing parameters put in place as soon as possible. I think that.
So realistically, theoretically, or realistically, whichever, this could actually be happening within the next year.
Yes.
This year,
This calendar year.
before the fall football season.
Oh, okay, I missed that somewhere along the way. So I just relating that to the HBCU money in 2023. I mean, it just seems to me that if that's to help folk get in the deal will be gone by the time the money's there.
Well, the way I understood the HBCU mandate wasn't so much that they were trying to help the licensees or the potential licensees. It's the people who could work in this type of industry. There's a limited. It's very
more-
math
it's more
intensive,
workforce
and it's
issue than it is a
Yes,
business issue.
yes.
I see. I misunderstood. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, it's you,
I
man.
like that. No, I'm afraid it was
Yeah.
helping people do startups, so the business would all take it over and
Boy.
be geographically restricted.
How you missed that?
Gotcha. I don't know. I missed that.
Okay, Senator Alfred.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Matt, the mobile licenses, what's the tax rate? I guess, could you just dig in a little more on the mobile licenses?
The mobile license would have a 15% tax rate,
Okay.
as opposed to the Bs are a 13. So the preferential rate is for B.
So both Class A and mobiles are 15, but the Bs are
Right.
13. Okay, in the first year of operation, the note on the chart?
Oh, so you can't specify it in law to give my disadvantaged businesses a head start, but we are giving a nod to the commission that we would like them to look into the possibility of giving businesses that are either disadvantaged or that have partnered in a meaningful way with a disadvantaged business, allowing them to enter the market and maybe keep that market free for a year if the commission determines that that's an appropriate remedial measure to take. So there's no guarantee that the commission's going to do that, but the intent here for the work group was that market should be open for some period of time, probably the first year, to those types of businesses that we would like to see getting a head start, if you will.
Okay, so just to game this out, if one of the casinos in the state successfully gets a Class A license, but then also wants to get a mobile license, they have to have a meaningful partnership with a disadvantaged company.
Correct.
Okay.
According to the commission, yeah. The commission's got a lot of flexibility to determine what a meaningful partnership means, or whether they're, to make that determination.
Okay, very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Edwards.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The commission we're talking about here, is that the existing gaming commission?
No, this is the SWARC, the Sports Wagering Awarding.
How many members are on this SWARF?
It is. Seven? Thank you.
Are they already in existence?
No.
What's the mechanism to appoint these commissioners?
Yes.
So the 2 members appointed by the governor, 2 members appointed by the president of the Senate, 2 members appointed by the Speaker of the House, and the and the chair.
No, I'm going to say my old.
The Lottery Commission,
I
yeah.
normally say is I hope there's some geographic spread in these appointments somewhere.
It's a good idea.
Very good. Senator Zucker.
I think that's, Senator Edwards, I think that's a good idea in terms of the geography. But I just wanted to talk a little bit on HBCUs. I wanted to just thank Senator McCray and Senator Peters for bringing this to the work group's attention. We certainly thought that there was a lot of merit to this because it's not connecting these students with sports betting, it's connecting them with analytics to help them toward math. I also wanted to just talk briefly about the zoning that was mentioned. We may want to put something in regarding preemption because I know that Rod and Reel and others want to have sports, to have bricks and mortar most likely, so we just don't want them to be zoned out if their city says no, so we just want to make sure that there's some type of preemption in there that it's going to the people that we know that want it at least up front.
I think that makes sense. If you've already got some sort of gambling operation of some sort, that this shouldn't, by its nature, shouldn't disqualify you. I mean, if you already got the license, I mean, you got the zoning to do that, I can't imagine why this would add to any problem.
And Mr. Chairman, that wasn't our intent either.
Right. So you come up with an amendment like that?
Sure.
Okay. Senator Peters?
I mean, you could grandfather them in, right?
Yeah.
So that would be ideal, because then, you're right, you could have somebody there who gets blocked.
Yeah. Okay. Senator Eckert?
Just going to add to that the existing bricks and mortar could be grandfathered in, right? And that would be a little bit easier
From a
because
zoning
then
standpoint,
that
yes.
covers it.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, should we move approval?
No.
We're just gonna talk it to death. It may never live through this committee.
Oh, it'll live. Don't worry. It's not going to die. Senator Stalling. Everybody gets a chance to say their piece.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know this isn't a finished product, and I'm very happy that we're all on board. And I just want to congratulate the chair for the job that he's done and the people that have worked on this. I can just see this was a lot of work, and I just want to commend them on the work that they've done right now.
Thank you. Good team. Good team. All right. Senator Quarterman.
Last question, just clarifying, we're talking about the mobile license. You don't have to have a brick and mortar to have a mobile license, correct?
Correct.
You get just a mobile.
Ignorance. How about the fantasy operations?
There's language that was already in the House bill, and I think we're just accepting that, if I'm correct with the work group. Yes?
Yeah. There's some technical amendments that we have to do that I don't think would throw us out of posture with the House, but there's stakeholders came in and there's just some clarifying amendments that we're going to have to adopt. Like, for instance, someone who's doing fantasy can also do fantasy betting if they're. I mean, this is kind of, some of it is just clarifying.
Yeah, because that's kind of a special breed of cat, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Senator.
Mr. Chairman, I've been getting questions on the side here. So I'm looking at the bill just for the actual definition. Matt, I don't know if you have it handy, but can you just read the definition just so everyone who might be listening, and my colleagues have been asking me what a mobile app is? Or I can do it when, let me get to it. I mean, it's basically your phone, a tablet, another device that is a computer that you can do. You can engage in sports betting when you're not actually at a facility or at a facility. But Well, what we've seen is, and this is what I've been saying over the summer as well, is, right now, every jurisdiction around Maryland, that's why time is of urgency right now, is, every jurisdiction around Maryland has sports betting up and running. So right now, you have someone who lives in downtown Silver Spring who will walk a block with their cell phone, bet in D.C., and then walk home.
They get some exercise.
Okay. All right, so we've got this zoning amendment issue. Any other known amendments from this afternoon that anybody wants to mention here? Otherwise, get to Matt quickly, so he has them. I actually am not going to bring us in the morning. And so we will meet immediately following session to finish this up.
Great.
Okay?
Yeah.
Any further questions? Comments? Again, any amendments, get to Matt as quickly as possible. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night.